As you all know, recently I've started some Hollow Knight lore videos outlining major characters, moments, things from the history of Hallownest and what predates this. Though here, one subplot is mainly left unexplored throughout the game, and that is in the form of the Soul Sanctum and their experiments for immortality. Okay, wait. Let's rewind. This story starts off with the rise of the infection. With the Radiance mainly forgotten, she launched the infection across the land of Hallownest to be remembered and worshipped as she once was. The citizens of Hallownest did not have an answer to this, and they sought research to save them. The king turned his attention to a specific group in Hallownest, the Scholars of the Soul Sanctum. These bugs have been trying to expand the mind of the common bug and gain immortality. These bugs tried to attain this goal via the lifeblood of most bugs, soul. Soul is the lifeblood that seeps through most beings in Hallownest, and without soul, one cannot survive. Soul is collected from the carcass of dead bugs as well as soul totems left behind by the ancient civilization. The main purpose of soul that was being researched in the Soul Sanctum was for the power of focusing. This is an ability that allows someone to repair their shell, and hence could cause someone to have immortality in the end. To quote a reference from the wiki, the mind still limits us. How to break past its constraints to attain a pure focus? Is it even possible? That's Record Abba. The bugs, they research soul day in and day out, trying to perfect the pure focus. Giving the opportunity to save the land of Hallownest from the troubles that plagued them, the scholars elevated their practices to a much higher level and did this more and more often, becoming addicts to the belief and not stopping until they perfected the practices. And this is where the lore of these bugs starts to get really deep and incredibly interesting. The bugs of the Soul Sanctum were hungry for success, and they would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. This caused the bugs to try and hold more and more soul. The Soul Master and his followers scourged the land for any soul totems left behind by the ancient civilization, taking more and more of these so that they could harness yet more soul into their experiments. More brutally among these is how they utilized the carcasses of bugs throughout Hallownest to try and take soul from them. Anyone who passed away would be utilized and have their soul siphoned out of them and thrown into more and more lucrative experiments at immortality. It was around this time where the Soul Master himself, who was already going insane from the experiments and all the soul consumed, and what it did to him, began to fall to the infection. He did not realize this, and in his mind, all the other citizens were falling and he was perfectly healthy. And he stepped up his experiments to a crazier level. He went across the land, killing civilians and utilizing the soul from their carcass to make him more stronger. The Pale King hated this plan, and when it was pitched to him that the Soul Master was going to use the soul from lots of beings and all of the soul totems to create a powerful thing, giving them a possibility of immortality that could save them from the Radiance, he gave them a resounding no. The Soul Master did not know that the Pale King at the time was actually experimenting with the more dangerous substance of Void. The scholars continued down this path, even though the Pale King did deny them this thing, and he objected it. The bodies littering the Soul Sanctum began to pile up until it became some load-bearing pillars and architecture of the area. The soul amassed grew and grew, and the bugs of the Soul Sanctum had to find containment methods, hence putting the soul in the jars. In cut content, we actually learn how they can take the soul and transform it into the experience. In record beta, it says to manipulate a soul, reformation of the mind must first occur. Few can bear such change. The path to true progress is littered with mistakes. They used all the soul from the dead bodies, and so they gave this to the scholars, and they were tortured countlessly with all these awful techniques, making their minds wider and wider so that they could hold more and more soul and keep working until they could attain a pure focus. Many of these bugs had actually already lost the majority of their intelligence during these experiments, and many of them became pathetic ground-dwelling creatures of no use to the Soul Master. They were slug-like creatures that crawled around the ground and had no more brain to think. During these experiments, more and more experiments failed, and it was always to the fact that they had too little soul. After committing more and more atrocities to the people of Hollow Nest, the Soul Master decided that they needed more powerful and more concentrated soul, and nowhere could he find this better than in the snail shamans. These were very powerful controllers of soul who could bend and master the soul as well as maintain and save themselves from the infection. The master killed and contained many shamans and used the lifeblood in them for more and more experiments. By now, he was fully insane. The infection had long since taken over him, and desperate to fight it, he consumed massive quantities of soul, giving his body a larger and larger size. Voices in his head from the soul that he used of all the people killed in the experiments echoed through his brain. He believed that these voices were telling him that he should keep moving on in the experiment and finish it and grant immortality to the bugs of Hollow Nest. In his head also blossomed plans of mutiny. Yes, mutiny. He planned with the power of all his soul and followers, followed by the fact that he could possess immortality and grant it to all the bugs in Hollow Knight, that he could take the kingdom for himself and rule. He wasn't powerful enough at this time, and with his supreme intellect and the ways he'd been wronged, didn't he deserve it? He thought, this sounds like another infamous dictator. He would overthrow the Pale King, and he would show the kingdom his success and how his experiments worked, and could grant them new, immortal life. This obviously was just a fantasy growing inside his head, driven by the madness of all the souls he had consumed, and the radiance haunting his head. He saw the power of the radiance, and he tried to emulate it and obtain similar powers in his hunt for a pure focus. But he never achieved anything near this. He just caused himself to go more and more insane and lose his conscience. He saw the answer in the soul possessing everyone's bodies, and he was maddened by this archaic substance, as well as by his rejections. The voice in his head was too much for him to bear. His dying words say how he blames the king, and how he could have been a much greater person and ruler, and how he could have actually caused this immortality and pure focus. He wonders of the voices that were in his head, and if they ever exist, or if it was just him moving towards the goal he had permanently been striving for. The story of the Soul Master is a sad one. This one tyrant tried to rule Hollow Nest in his own image with his crooked ideals without realizing the death count. The story is crucial to understanding more about the Pale King, the ancient civilization, and certain in-game events. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'm Ravenbane, and I hope to see you when we talk about Void in some upcoming videos. Have a nice day.